So when there is a lack of energy in the brain, we see that people with low amounts of GLUT1 and high amounts of glucose will get anxious, they will get angry, they will have a lack of cognitive performance. So really make sure to stay here. A lot of GLUT1 receptors, low amounts of glucose on average. Getting snack deep in the gentlemen, I usually spew my stack out and don't know it because yes, milligrams per deciliter. We have about 5 grams if we have about 5 liters of blood. Some physical, chemical process, just psychological, something like you're giving yourself a reward before even winning the tournament. Yes, especially if you, I don't know if it has a direct impact on your game, but when you think about sugar, for example, it creates a dopamine spike right before you eat it. And that actually makes you feel good, right? That's why a lot of people, when they're feeling bad, they grab something that is sweet, whether it's chocolate or ice cream or whatever, and it actually makes you feel good. Maybe it can also be the blood sugar rising and dropping, and that can lead to a lack of cognitive function. So can be something, but being on that roller coaster of blood sugar during the grind is actually something that I really would avoid. I would actually only do it when I'm really, really tired and it's a really fucking amazing fun table and I want to play at my best, and being a little bit more excited and keeping that excitement up is important. But in general, during the grind, I would have one easily digestible meal before, and then maybe one snack during the session if it's a long session, maybe after 4 hours or so, for example, but not that every 5-minute break we will be eating something really. So we want to try to avoid that. So let's look at the blood and the brain again. So here's the blood, there's the glucose, and here through the blood-brain barrier goes the glucose via those GLUT1 canals into our brain, where it can be used. With a low meal frequency and some movement, everything's fine. Blood sugar is relatively low. If we eat frequently, we're gonna see it like this, just more glucose. And what happens is a little bit like with the insulin receptors, we see that there's a lack of GLUT1 canals. What does it mean? The energy uptake or the glucose uptake to our brain is impaired. We lose metabolic flexibility of the brain. When we have a thing that is called neurohypoglycemia, low blood sugar in the brain, so when there is a lack of energy in the brain, we see that people with low amounts of GLUT1 and high amounts of glucose will get anxious, they will get angry, they will have a lack of cognitive performance. So really make sure to stay here. A lot of GLUT1 receptors, low amounts of glucose on average. It's a model, but it's actually the way it is in our brain. When we think about what other sources of energy we can use, then we also have ketone bodies, we also have lactate, and we also have MCTs, transporters, which are getting those ketone bodies and the lactate into our body. Ketone bodies are being produced when we are in a ketogenic state, and that means when we haven't eaten for a while, for example, our liver turns fatty acids into these ketone bodies, and it's a really effective source of energy for our brain. And lactate is something that is produced when we exercise really intensely. So when we sprint, when we do weightlifting, when we play a sports game, for example. We can use these energy sources in our brain as well. So fasting every now and then, and also exercising in a frequent manner, elevates the amount of these MCTs, monocarboxyl transporters, that's the term that I was looking for, and our brain can use a variety of different energy sources when we are fasting more often, and when we are working out more often, and when we are eating less frequently. So we went a little bit deep into this one, but I think it's just such an important model to look at when we talk about health of the brain, and also a big amount of emotional balance that comes with it, and then also cognitive performance. I believe it's has one of the biggest impacts there too. Cool. When we don't exercise and we never fast, we also see that MCTs go down, and that's when problems starting to occur. That's also why people, when they start eating more healthily and less frequently and working out more often and fasting every now and then, generally are more balanced, they are more calm, and they have just a better energy uptake to their brains. So how often we eat, and when we eat matters. So unless you are an athlete or are really exercising vigorously 3 to 4 times a week, for example, then you can limit your food take to 3 or maybe even sometimes 2 times a day. And fasting every now and then makes a lot of sense to regain that metabolic flexibility that I just talked about. You can eat within 8 hours of your day. It's not mandatory, but if you haven't tried it, try it out and see how you feel. The first time I did it 4 or 5 years ago, I was realizing that I skipped breakfast in the morning and I had amazing cognitive performance for all of my productive tasks in the morning until I had a really good lunch, salad, eggs, some salmon, some vegetables, and after that I was still feeling fine. Also, a good thing to do is move before you eat, because then we can take up the energy without insulin, and that creates better blood sugar, and that also leads to us being more metabolically flexible, and our digestion is also improved when we have moved before. So I don't mean like insane exercise, but just taking a walk or doing some stretching before also helps us calm down, and being in that more calm system, we can digest in a better way. Any questions, guys?